We said this in the newsletter this morning at the top. If Republicans aren't scared by what happened last night, they should be. They should be. They should take this, and they won't, but they should take this seriously because the map shifted to the left.
Good morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Let's get into the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, a big election night for Democrats. Number two, day 36 of the shutdown. Where do we go from here? And number three, big stakes for Congress in the tariff case before the Supreme Court. All right, Jake, let's get to it. Last night was election night, and Democrats came out with a big evening, and it impacts a lot of different things. But let's talk about what's happening in New Jersey, in Virginia, and of course, New York and California.
This is a whooping. It's just an absolute whooping for Democrats. Not only did Abigail Spanberger win and Mikey Sherrill, not only did they win, but they shifted, and especially in Virginia. If you look at the statistics, they shifted basically, Spanberger shifted every county for the most part left. Counties that Trump won in 24 got bluer. That doesn't mean that Spanberger won, but she shifted the map left. Most people, I mean, I was talking to people in the New Jersey delegation and in the political world yesterday and the days before the election. They thought the Sherrill race would be close. It was not close at all. It was just Sherrill won in a walk. Trump's response was Trump wasn't on the ballot, and the shutdown were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight.
That's what he posted on True Social. Yep.
He posted on True Social. Well, Trump won't ever be on the ballot again. So what does that mean for Republicans? And the shutdown, which was instigated by Democrats, polls have shown time and time again that Republicans are being blamed for the shutdown. I mean, it's not absolutely consistent, but Republicans are getting the blame in some corners for the shutdown. Democrats successfully defended three Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices. Prop 50, Anna, which was Gavin Newsom's effort to redistrict in California in response to Republicans redistricting in Texas, passed with like 60-something% of the vote. I mean, not all votes are counted. It's California. We might not get a result until 2080. So, I don't know what it'll eventually look like. But what do you think?
Everybody has been watching this, and I think, you can't read too much into it, right?
Nope.
I think that is what is very important. But for Democrats, this is, if nothing else, a psychic, right? It is a psychically important election because after Kamala Harris, after kind of getting trounced in a lot of places, and I think also, when you look at what happened in the last election at the presidential level, you had Donald Trump taking Democratic, kind of votes and counties and increasing Republicans' ability to fight, not only in kind of typical battleground states, but in New Jersey, in places that he did much better than the typical Republicans. Right now, you've seen that shift back. I think this clearly will have an implication, not only in the fact of where the shutdown is, which we're going to talk about, because I do think this impacts it, but it also, for Democrats, they look towards the map. You go to donors, you say, hey, look what happened here. We have a shot to, kind of take back control of Congress. All of a sudden, there's a lot more energy on the Democratic side than there was, 24 hours ago.
And what you said is right. You can't make too much of this. The Winsome Earl Sears in Virginia was a uniquely, let's say, subpar candidate. And in California, Republicans, after crowing about how much money they were going to put into this thing, basically did nothing. I mean, Democrats spent more than 2x what Republicans spent in California. So, I mean, they kind of left it on the field a little bit. And let's mention Zoran Mamdani, who Hakeem Jeffries endorsed. Chuck Schumer did not. Was elected mayor, 34-year-old Muslim Democratic socialist. Trump endorsed Cuomo at the 11th hour. Andrew Cuomo, that is. Wasn't nearly enough. I mean, Anna, and we'll get into the impacts for Washington for our audience in a second. But Mamdani will be, you could bet your bottom dollar on it at this point, the focal point for a lot of Republican attacks in 2026. Whether they'll work or not, can't tell you, but especially in New York and New Jersey, where Republicans have some opportunity to protect members
Mm.
and not really an opportunity, but the responsibility to protect members, Mamdani's going to play a huge role. So,
Yeah, let's talk a little about the impact, 'cause I think it's important,
yes,
right? And I
please.
think we don't know. I think first of all, we're going to get into the shutdown in the number two item of the day. So, but I do think the question is going to be, what do Democrats take from this? What do Republicans take from this? We saw some momentum clearly this week. There's a number of Democrats who, you know, as much as the reading of the tea leaves could be, hey, it's time to fight more on this issue, which we'll see if that's the takeaway.
Yep.
It
Right.
also could say, hey, have a winning message here. We've proven the point on the shutdown. We have healthcare to run on. We have the economy. We've got all of these things. Maybe it's time to kind of be the party, which often Democrats like to say is they're the adults in the room. We're the people who can govern. Give us the power. That could also be part of what they take away from this.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, listen, we'll begin to see some of this today. You're already seeing people like Chris Murphy saying that Democrats are rewarded for fighting for healthcare, for things that voters care about. So that's one side of the coin. But the shutdown has to end at some point. It's now the longest shutdown in American history. And I think we could say not definitively, can't say anything definitively, but I think we could say that, you know, if Democrats decide it is now time to end the shutdown, which that's what they're moving toward, I think it's fair to say that there is very little chance that it's going to be a quick ending, meaning like I don't know that they're going to just yield back a ton of time and vote on a bill tomorrow. I don't think that's probably the case. But, you know, for those who want to strike a deal and let their foot off the gas with Republicans, the optics here are not great. I mean, they just aren't. What do you think? I maybe I'm wrong.
We'll have to
Of
see. I mean,
course, yeah.
let's also, I think we're going to get into the shutdown in a second, but I think the other really important thing, and Senate Republicans are going to the White House this morning for breakfast
Yep.
with President Donald Trump. And the big question, we saw what he said on True Social, but will be, what is the Republican, what are their takeaways, right? Because do you see Trump push on the filibuster and say, I need to be able to do what I need to do because we're probably not going to keep the majority? Or, do you see Donald Trump say, hey, actually, I'm going to make a deal on this. It's time to get out of this. We have seen such a unified Republican Party in Washington when it comes to this shutdown, feeling like they have the upper hand. Is this a chink in the armor? We'll have to see.
Yeah, and I think we could also say, Anna, just to put a bow on this, each party takes the wrong message or not necessarily the most obvious message from every election you and I have covered. You know what I mean? Like, it's very rare that the party that wins or loses is like unified on what the election means. And I just think it's always difficult to it's never clean. But I'll say this, Anna, and we said this in the newsletter this morning at the top. If Republicans aren't scared by what happened last night, they should be. They should be. They should take this, and they won't, but they should take this seriously because the map shifted to the left. Now, it is a long time, less than a year, but a long time until the midterm elections. But to just throw your hands up and say, well, nothing to do with us. It's all cool. This is, and by the way, to listeners of this podcast, you're hearing Anna and I really process this in real time because this all wrapped up late last night. But like, if you're not being introspective here at all about the election and saying that it has something to do with the way Republicans are governing, then you're doing yourself a disservice because, the map shifted last night. New Jersey shifted from where it was in 2024. Yep. Everything shifted. And most important, maybe not most importantly, but one of the most important things, and this is what Ali Mutnick wrote last night, 2 heavily Latino counties in New Jersey that Trump won in 24 swung back to the left. Passaic and Cumberland counties and improved Harris's margin in Hudson County by a double-digit advantage. I mean, if you don't want to listen to it, then you don't have to. But I mean, anyway.
All right, Jake, let's move on to the number 2 story of the morning. It's day 36 of the government shutdown. This is now the longest shutdown in U.S. history. And we finally saw some momentum on Monday and Tuesday toward a bipartisan deal to end the standoff. The big question that remains right now is, what does this mean for the election night results? Do you see Democrats emboldened, wanting to stand their ground? Or do they take the victory and say, all right, we've got an off-ramp here, it's time to move forward?
There are a dozen. Here's my case, and I'll make a case that this is not going to impact the speed of the shutdown ending, which I do think is slowly coming to an end. Probably next week is my guess. Maybe over the weekend, but I don't know. There are a dozen Democrats engaging in this off-ramp discussion, and a lot of those Democrats want to move on to appropriations, want to get this shutdown over, and I don't know that they're going to be swayed by this election. Now, they are trying, as we reported yesterday morning, to chart a course on passing a full year 2026 appropriations slate and set up votes on enhanced Obamacare subsidies. But both sides rather have to resolve internal differences on the proposal. The Senate could require multiple days to process any funding bill to reopen the government. Without an agreement to speed up the votes, Republican and Democratic aides suggested there's a chance that the Senate could vote on a deal this weekend. But I will say I am skeptical.
That'd be pretty fast for the Senate.
Yeah, it'd just be very fast. And listen, this thing's got to end at some point. And I think, now's as good of a time as any. But again, I'll probably get myself in trouble here, but the House Democrats are getting taken for a ride here because they said they were not going to open, and Democrats said we were not going to open the government until we got in writing an Obamacare deal. They're not getting one in writing, and Mike Johnson is not committing to holding a vote on his side in the House on these Obamacare subsidies.
But does winning the election on last night, is that the salve for Democrats, Jake? I mean, like
Sure.
yes, they're getting what the House Democrats wanted, if they reopen the government. Of course not. They definitely aren't. But at the end game, it's a negotiation. You don't get exactly what you want on either side, typically. And
yeah, that's right.
So
that's right.
I think you gotta
right.
you can't overstate the fact that Democrats can also say, hey, we won big here. We got to move forward. We're now going to fight. I really think when you win on things, it makes it a lot easier than if they'd had a really bad night on Tuesday night to say, okay, now we're just going to have to swallow not only a bad election night, but also we're not getting anything that they want. I mean, the contrast between the House and the Senate and the idea that Democratic senators are frustrating House Democrats is not necessarily a new storyline, right?
Absolutely not.
All right, let's move to the number 3 story of the morning from the Vault. Our tax and financial services policy coverage. The tariff case has big stakes for Congress. We're talking, of course, about this big Supreme Court case, which is monumental for President Donald Trump's trade powers. Huge. It's on deck at the Supreme Court today. And this is going to be major because if the Supreme Court does not back President Donald Trump, I mean, his only basic kind of recourse will be to go to Congress to say, hey, it's time to kind of back me up here, guys, on tariffs, right?
Good luck. I don't know. Yes, this is this is, if not the biggest, and certainly one of the biggest stories right now, because if the Supreme Court strikes down Obama, God, what decade am I in? If the Supreme Court strikes down late night with this election, it actually wasn't even that late. I kind of, went to bed at normal-ish time. If the Supreme Court strikes down Trump's tariffs and he has to go to Congress to get these back in place, it's going to be very difficult. Yeah. Like I know a lot of senators and House Republicans listen to this, and House Democrats and Senate Democrats listen to this podcast. But do you think that they could get that with the skepticism about tariffs, they could get tariffs through Congress? I don't think so. And then what does that mean if they have to pay back? The government has to pay back the tariffs it collected.
Carry the 1 times the 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. The math gets really difficult fast.
Yeah, my son is in the middle of doing, my 8-year-old's in the middle of doing long addition.
Wow.
So I put these in front of him, and he's quite good at it, by the way. So I think this is a huge issue. And Kevin Cramer said I think it would be hard. And the only way to do it would be through reconciliation if it was even doable at all. I don't know that it's doable at all. I think this is going to be a big issue if these tariffs are struck down. I'd be curious to see how the markets react. The markets probably will move based on the Supreme Court hearing today. The case is up in front of the Supreme Court, obviously, as we write. So this is just a huge thing for the Trump agenda.
It's going to be massive. And I think that where you really see some of the concern, and this is one of the areas where you have had some lawmakers willing even to be on the Republican side.
Split with him.
To split with Trump, which we have not
Yep,
seen a lot.
absolutely.
All
Yep,
right, we're
yep.
going to end it there. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. What a week we are in, Jake. We are going to be covering all things shutdown throughout this week. We will let you know where that stands. Of course, we appreciate you listening to Daily Punch. If you want to go deeper on any and all of these issues, you can go to punchbowl.news. Sign up for our free morning newsletter. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.